Good afternoon, or good day, or whatever day it is where you're at. This is Stephanie, the world according to Steph. Spiritual Foundations 26. It's not been easy for me lately. I sent an email, or I had another one for the 25th just recently. I even reposted it today because I felt like it was not getting the attention that it needed. People need to be showering, thinking of this human being that's out there somewhere. I don't know where. I can't tell you exactly. But I watched the video again myself and I reviewed my remembrances of that vision. It never goes away, I can tell you that. But, I'm going to talk about a few things. First of all, the fact that having faith, being in a spiritual place, is a saving thing for every human being. I'm not talking about religion, please. Don't think I am. I'm talking about God. I'm talking about what God is for us and what God does for us. When you decide what your God is, I have no issue with that. But I have faith and hope. And one thing that happened this morning was I woke up extremely early, 5 o'clock, in a tremendous amount of pain because not only do I have a lot of physical problems normally, but now I have what's called shingles. A lot of people are getting it. I had no idea how serious it really was. When I first got it, I was kind of foolish. I thought it was bug bites. Spider bites. I live in the south. I have a little deck area room that's more outside than inside outside. And it had been sprayed and it was full of dead spiders. So about 2 weeks before all this happened, I actually got enough energy up to go out and really clean it because I don't like a lot of dirt. Never have, never will. I think it's very unhealthy for people to be dirty, allow themselves to get that way. Very unhealthy. But anyway, I cleaned all that out. And it was a mess. It took about 3 or 4 hours for me to do it. But of course, I am very disabled. And that was, even though I felt like I should be able to do it, it was still very taxing on my systems. Okay. And then right after I did that, I had my son who passed away. His birthday came. So a lot of things have gone on, and then I woke up a week ago, last Tuesday, with these terrible, I just had a little bit in the front, but underneath my arm, I had a huge, huge spot. And then I didn't even know that there was another spot, above that. See, this is it healing. I've had this for 2 weeks now. That's just the beginning. It goes all the way to my back. Now here's the problem with shingles. It's not just sores. Okay, it's much worse. Oh no, much worse. Yes, it's part of chickenpox. And what happens is it attacks your nerves inside your body. Mine got so bad on this side of me that I could hardly breathe out of one of my lungs. It got that bad. And the doctor wanted to keep me in the hospital, but me, no, I will not stay in a hospital. That's a nightmare place for me, and especially down here. When it comes to medical down here, they're way behind the times, let me tell you. But we won't go there right now. We're on the spiritual class, not examine the environment world here. It's a beautiful place to live, but if you're sick, you better be old and on your way out, because otherwise this is not the place for you. But anyway, I feel that God brought me here for a very good reason, though. I don't think God really tests us. I don't think that's how it works. I think what happens is we choose to be in the situations that we are in. And we choose them for, sometimes we don't even know why we choose them. I came here about 7 months after my son passed, because I remembered him saying, Mom, you really need to look at this where I live right now as a possible place to move to. He had been down here, there's an Army Air Force base, and he learned how to be in the medevac unit down here. I can hear them all the time, frankly. They're not that far from where I live. But a lot of people I live around are in the Army or, the reserves or something. But they're Army connected, I can tell you that. But anyway, he had an ex-girlfriend who promised to help me when I came down here. No, she just couldn't handle it, and that's okay. We have to let people go. I believe that they're brought in their lives for certain periods of time, and then when that period of time is over with for either one of those people, they just separate. And not try to fight that. You must let it happen, because there must be a reason for it. I can tell you stories about me and how often I fought that, and all it did was make it 100 times worse. It made it so much worse. So don't fight it. If a friendship or a relationship is starting to dwindle away, let it go. Let God do the work and let it go. And I've read before a nice little method to release anybody from your life, a friend, anyone, a lover, a child even. Because the way it's worded is maybe you'll come back when you're ready, okay? I've been through that. I had 3 children. And believe me, I know all about that kind of stuff. My child that passed, when he passed away, his mind was a little angry with me, but his soul loved me. I don't care whether anybody believes this or not, but it's true. It is written. I've already written about it in My Son, My Hero, my version of it, because there's a lot of My Son, My Heroes out there right now. But I did blog about my son, and I sent it all the way up to the president, or actually the Secretary of Defense sent it to the president. It just talked about the wonderful things, the highlights of this human being in this world. Well, now we have to remember something. Every human being has beautiful highlights. Every human being has wonderful purposes for being in this world. And everybody can find that purpose patiently, but they have to have faith. Faith will bring it to you much clearer than anything else. I don't care what you believe in. God is God. I don't care what your religion is. God is God. So I'm speaking to all of you. Hindu, Buddhism, all of you. Christians, every single one. Pagan, I don't care what you're. God is God. Period. Now, I don't go to a religion, but I meditated this morning and I prayed very deeply. And again, I saw something within those meditations, but I don't need to talk about that right now. Now, what I am going to do is share some more inner thoughts with you. I think it's a very important part for me right now, because remember that the last video that I put out, I said there's a great darkness that I fear is coming. I don't fear it, but other people will. I am here to tell you that you have nothing to fear. Let me give you a little acronym. Fear, false evidence appearing real. What would you be afraid of if it isn't even here? And even if there was something here, what good is fear going to do for you? What good will it do? It doesn't do anything. So, human beings have this natural thing that we're born with. It probably goes way back. Way back into the beginnings of our creation. It's called fight or flight. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of it. Now, hopefully we've come enough into our development that we can take a look at what the problem is without having to do either one of those. Okay? Hopefully we can settle the problem without having to do the fight or flight process. And that's what I pray for. Because, as I said, I do believe we have a great darkness headed our way. And I cannot begin to tell you what it is yet. I have some suspicions. And that's another reason why I've been putting some strange stuff on the internet just to help educate people that really don't know the meanings of some of the terms that some of our diplomats use, some of our high-level company owners use. You need to be more, I don't know if you need to be, but maybe there are some people out there who are confused by some of those verbiages, some of those words that they use, those symbols, those meanings. Now, I know this is a spiritual deal, but it's something that we must discuss, we must talk about, too, because it all plays a part in that darkness, trust me. Now, you might think I'm wearing black for a reason. No, I'm just wearing an outfit that I can actually wear that doesn't irritate the sores that I'm dealing with, okay? That's the only reason. Now I'm going to read a little bit of Emmett. And I don't know how long I'll be able to do this because, as I said before, I'm in a huge amount of pain right now. And I can't even lay on the side of my body at all. It's just horrible, horrible, horrible. So, when I talked to my doctor, I sent him a text message and I said, I just need some hope. Now I have hope with God, but I need you, you're the expert, and I need you to help me with this hope. And he sure enough called me today. In fact, he called me twice. And he told me, he doesn't call me Steph, he's from Scotland. And he calls me Stephanie. Stephanie, do not worry. Everything will be all right. In his Scottish little accent, which I can't even recreate. He's so sweet. But he's a good doctor. And the minute he saw me, he knew exactly what to do. He took me to the OR, and he did a little bit of surgery right then and there. And that night, I was actually online with all of you, saying, okay, I'm better. It was only because of what he did for that day that made me better. The pain came back with a big roar the next day, or later that night. So that was my surprise. No, I wasn't that much better. I mean, I was, but it was going to take time. It really was. Okay, now, good old Emmett. We were talking about, this is a Sermon on the Mount, key to success in life. Now, Emmett really got into this, okay, because actually Emmett was a Christian, all right? But Emmett respected all other religions completely. Now, he did get into the Bible on several of his books, and but he broke it down into a much more understandable way. Now, I don't think some of my Bible study people that I know around here could actually handle this, because he takes it in a different way. Now, I'm not saying that this is my religion. I know. Do I believe in Jesus Christ? You betcha I do. You betcha I do. Do I believe in some of the other things in Buddhism? You betcha I do. Do I believe in some things in Islam? You betcha I do. Do I consider their books holy? You betcha I do. My son was a Buddhist. My best friend was a Buddhist. They're both dead now, or passed on, transitioned. In fact, I don't think my son's available anymore. I think he's being prepared for his next life. I believe in reincarnation. And I'm going to tell you why I believe. I have several reasons. It started long ago, too. It wasn't just recent. Okay. Now he talks about what I believe in, metaphysics. That's my big thing, okay? I went to school for it, and I went to school for it. Let me tell you something that was not easy for a disabled woman to walk up steps, and they didn't give me any extras for doing that, let me tell you. It made me have to do everything that everybody else had to do, and it was not easy, and I was still working a job. But, God got me through it beautifully. And I did all the homework. I read all the books. We had to read a book every week, every single week. We had to meditate every single day. We did all kinds of things. And I still had to function in a job that kept me busy 24 hours a day. But you know, God takes care of us and gets us through these things. And that's exactly what happened. I was being taken care of. And I already had one spinal operation, so it was a little bit better. But unfortunately, not completely. Okay, let's read what he has to say about metaphysics here. Okay, let's start before that, in fact. One hears occasionally of curious cases of people who claim to be so spiritual that they do not feel called upon to earn their own living. Are there really people out there like that, do you think? Because I don't believe anymore that we accept that. And remember, Emmett wrote this back in the 20s and 30s, okay? There were people back then that were doing things like this. Someone else, a relative or friend who is not too spiritual to go to work, is expected to keep them in idleness. Now, we know that idleness is not good for us. And I'm not going to be one of these Bible thumpers that says idleness is a work of the devil. Idleness will make you sicker, is what it'll do. If you're in chronic pain or you have some of the issues that I live with, I'm not idle. Not at all. I'm getting ready to do 2 websites. One will be making money, hopefully, for my father, and the other one will be a free website coming up. So I don't let my injuries and my problems, my physical disabilities, stop me in any way. Even the problem I'm having now, here I am talking to you. Okay. Now, but this attitude of mine speaks for itself. If your understanding of metaphysics is sufficient to enable you to dispense with ordinary work, you will find yourself automatically supplied and in an independent and self-respecting manner with a good living. This speaks to us of the needs that God provides. You have to have faith for all this. It requires faith. God provides for our needs. I needed my doctor today. He called me twice. Or at least I felt the need. Anyway, where did I get here? This cannot possibly apply to people who are in debt or sponging upon others. So if you're doing something nasty or wrong, you're not going to get your need taken care of until you take care of your problems. God doesn't give you things when you don't do things to straighten your life out. Now you can go to Him for direction. God will be happy to help you get that life straightened out. Trust me, I did. I had to go for help. Okay. If you really wish to try the experiment of stepping out upon the power of the Word, the power of the Word is the Word of God, the truth. That's what we sometimes call it, the truth. By all means, do so. But be sure that your so doing is authentic. Don't pretend. It won't work. The only way to make this experiment a genuine manner is to let it be demonstrate or starve. Hmm. I've told the story before about me and my children and how, unfortunately, I had to leave one of the men that I married, who was the father of my son who passed away and my youngest daughter. Unfortunately, there was some very serious things going on in that relationship, and I literally packed up my children and whatever else I could get into my little car, and off we went to try to make a new life somewhere. And trust me, if you think that was simple and easy, no, no. I had a little girl that wasn't even quite 2 years old yet, who had almost died on me twice. So you think that was simple? No, not by any means. But I knew in my heart that I had to do something for those children and me, that we had to be protected. And we lived inside a car for a week in very cold weather, really. But we managed. And when I got on my knees, and I really meant it, and I said, please keep me alive long enough to raise these children, God did. That's exactly what happened. And within 1 month, I had someone to take care of my children while I went to work, while I found us a place to live, while I cleaned it up, repainted it, got it all fixed up. God took care of that for me. Okay, now, because I prayed with my soul from deep within, which I didn't even know I had such deep a power of prayer. Now, if you are secretly looking to someone else to come to the rescue, you're not really depending upon the Word. This is important. Listen carefully. Every Christian is entitled to reasonable prosperity. Yeah, somebody sent me or discussed something with me one time, and they said, what about the rich people? Well, what about them? What about them? Do we think God wants us all to be poor? I don't believe that. Not one bit. I'm sorry, but that's not the God I believe in, okay? I believe God wants us to be happy and content. And if we're poor, we're going to be focusing on bringing money in rather than focusing on our gifts that God gave us, all of us. But even when you're poor, you can focus on those gifts. We'll get into that discussion one day too. Okay, so everybody's entitled. He says Christian, I say everybody, is entitled to reasonable prosperity, which means enough to live on in decent comfort and reasonable security, until you can demonstrate this genuinely by the power of the Word alone. You should use your treatment to find a position and to make it a success. I can't speak right now. I'm sorry. I can feel this in the back. I'm very, very sorry about that. Okay. Jesus tells us in this section now, you may not be a Christian, but please listen to this, okay? I know for a fact that the other religions do recognize Jesus as a prophet, as someone very high. So please listen. Don't just turn me off because I said the name Jesus right now, okay? And I don't care if you're Jewish either. Don't turn me off. Listen to what the Word says. Jesus tells us in this section that by taking thought, we cannot add 1 cubit to our stature This is one more way of stating the great truth that he states in so many ways, namely, that we have to be born again. Oh goodness, are we talking about possible reincarnation? Because, of course, you always do what you are. But as long as you remain the man that you are, or woman, you cannot by merely taking thought be or do anything except what you are. And that's where because of course you always do what you are comes in. You can only get anywhere, as they say, by becoming a different man or a different woman. How is your soul ever going to understand anything? Think about it. Think about it. So this you can only do by getting some realization of the presence of God. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Stay in today. Take no thought of the morrow. It will take care of itself. You need to have faith in that. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. See, in other words, you have enough going on today, so why not just stay in today and deal with that? Okay? Pretty easy on that one, isn't it? Now, in prayer, we usually work in the present tense. The whole idea of prayer is to adjust one's consciousness, and this must necessarily be done in the present. In the present. Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. When a problem concerning your future presents itself to you, for example, suppose that you have to sit for an examination in 6 months' time, or to take a voyage which you dread, perhaps next week. The right thing is to pray about it now. Right now. In the present tense. Not for the future, but right now. Make yourself well for all of this today. That's what he's saying. He's not saying, here, pray for, I hope I have a good trip. Dear Lord, I hope I have a good trip in a month. That's not what he's saying. Okay? What he's saying is praying, Dear Lord, I need your guidance and direction today. Today. Because God already knows about the trip. God knows everything. Your future, your past, everything. So you don't even need to mention the trip. When you pray for a person, I always like to get a name, but if I don't have a name, I don't need it. God knows. My soul is telling God exactly what God needs. Not only that, God knows anyway. The fact that I'm trying to add more energy to it is a wonderful thing. Okay. Do not try, as it were, to throw your treatment forward. Okay, so he's saying, stay in today. This cannot be done successfully. The event may be a future one, but the very fact that you are thinking of it at all means that it is present in consciousness. I'll discuss that in a second. And as the thought is a present one, it can and must be dealt with in the present tense. Right now. In the same way, you can treat about past events, and you should do so, if they still worry you by treating about them in the present tense, because the thought of them is present. See, let's talk about that a minute. I lived a very difficult life up until almost 19 years ago. Very, very difficult. I've lost a lot of people in my life that I loved. They either committed suicide, they were killed, they died suddenly. I have lost a lot. And I've been injured severely by other people and by myself. And I was born with congenital issues that they didn't even find out about until I was a grown woman. And in fact, I was so grown up, my children were already gone for the most part. Almost. But the point is that I had to release all of that stuff. And all of that stuff was making me even more sick. I just didn't know it. And I had to have help. I couldn't do it alone. I had to go out and find spiritual help to get rid of that stuff. We cannot hang on to our nastiness in the past. We must let it go. But sometimes we have to have guidance and direction in how to do that. And I know how to do it. And one of these days I'll really sit down and give full instructions to anyone who's willing to listen to my videos and find out. I got a little bit more time left. Now, so we treat for past and future events alike as though the incident were going on at the present moment. And by treat, he means to pray and meditate. That's what he's talking about. Remember that God is outside of what we call time. In God's world, time doesn't mean anything. It's only in our world that time means anything. Okay, you have to keep this in mind. We're not in the same place. We're just not. God doesn't have time involved in God's world, okay? My son might already be reborn. His older brother thinks he is. So possibly he is. I don't know. I have no way of knowing that. But I do know that he contacted me last Christmas. And someday I'll talk about that experience too. Oh yeah, I have a lot of really cool experiences, let me tell you. Okay. Now, remember that God is outside what we call time, and the beautiful healing action of His holy presence is just as applicable to one date as to another. So He can heal your past. Believe me, I know. I've been healed. Now I could bring it all back, all that pain and suffering, but I won't do it. I'm glad I'm healed. And I continue to practice the techniques that I must practice to stay healed. But I don't want to relive all that crap, all that terrible stuff. It was terrible. And yes, I was a prisoner of war by my very first husband. He behaved very insanely. He was a very sick man. Now, always remember that the only thought that you need to concern yourself with is the present one. That's it. That's the only thought that you need to be concerned with. The thoughts of yesterday or of last year do not matter now, because if you can get the present thought right, it will make everything else right, here and now. The best way to prepare for tomorrow is to make today's consciousness serene and harmonious. All other good things will follow upon that. Never go delving into your mind to look for troubles to pray or treat about. Let them come up naturally. Deal faithfully with those that bring themselves to your attention because they will. And hidden things will be taken care of. In the same spirit, Christianity or whatever you are, because it doesn't matter, discourages too much consideration of the next plane and of the after-death conditions. I want you to remember that. Stop worrying about your death. Stop it now. Such preoccupations are too often but a flight from the realities of this life. You're running, and trust me, I tried to run. It doesn't help. There's no point, because it will not solve your problems. And he says, but a flight from the realities of this life and of everyday problems that should be faced and solved here, not evaded, or what is the same thing, postponed in thought. We are to dwell upon life and not death, and to concentrate upon making our demonstration here and now. And by demonstration, we are talking meditation and prayer. Now, I told you how to meditate using the candle. That's the first start. It's in chapter 22 or 23, I think, or maybe 21, but it's there. And then the next part, let's talk about prayer for a minute, and then I'm going to end it. When we pray, a lot of people think that they have to say this person's name, and they go through a lot of, stuff, all right? But you don't have to go through a lot of that stuff. Why would you? God's all-knowing. Does everybody believe that? Looks like something's flying around. It's just dust. Gets a little dusty in here. And you have to have vents planes. But anyway, I want everybody to think about this now. If God's all-knowing, why would anybody have to come in and lay on hands? Of course, Reiki is a lay on hands kind of thing. I talked about Reiki a little bit. And we're going to get into the Reiki thing too. Okay? That's a little separate from this. That's a healing process. But here's the deal. When I pray, and I'm not telling anybody else what to do, this is how I pray. I pray for divine wisdom and divine guidance and divine help. And I go into a state of meditation with those in my head as I look for the light. That is how I go into deep prayer and meditation. I did so earlier today, as a matter of fact. I do not allow my disabilities or even my extra disabilities to stop me from living my life. I will not allow it. God will help me. God provides my needs. And I will have faith. And I will always have faith in that. So, I wish you all well. That's the end of this chapter. And we are going to get into the next chapter, which is with what measure you meet. Judge not, that ye should not be judged. Remember we talked about being judged, or Having judgments, that's the next one. We're going to work on this. Hey, I love y'all. Have a great day.